Jihoon. Siyun sat up now, wrapping her silk scarf around her bare shoulders. Come back here. She'll get over it. They always do. But Jihoon couldn't move. Couldn't look away from that call log. Yura didn't do desperate. Didn't do messy. The 20-second call never came. His fingers moved on instinct, hitting her contact. The line didn't even ring. Straight to a dead tone that made his blood run cold. I need to go. What? Soo-yoon's face twisted with disbelief. You're leaving now because your treaty wife is having a tantrum. Jihoon was already grabbing his jacket, his keys. Chapter 1. The Locked Door. Jihoon Park stared at his phone screen, the glow harsh against his face in the dimly lit karaoke room. Wife. 21 missed calls. Behind him, Siyun stretched across the velvet sofa like a satisfied cat, her laugh still echoing from 20 minutes ago when she'd answered his phone, when she'd purred into the receiver in perfect English. He's busy right now. Can I take a message? The click of Yura hanging up had been soft. Final. Is she still blowing up your phone? Siyun called out, amusement threading through her voice as she reapplied lipstick in her compact mirror. Jihoon's thumb hovered over the callback button. 21 times. Yura had called 21 times. His wife, the woman who barely spoke above a whisper at family dinners, who faded into expensive wallpaper at his business meetings, who bowed to his mother every morning with perfect grace, who'd given birth to twins 3 weeks ago and still managed the household staff without ever raising her voice, had called 21 times. The phone didn't ring again. That silence hit him like a fist to the gut. Before we go deeper into the story, you're welcome. If you believe women deserve respect, loyalty, and real love, not control disguised as protection, subscribe and help us reach our goal. Your support helps us spread these stories to people who need to know. They deserve better, and it's okay to walk away. Jihoon. Siyun sat up now, wrapping her silk scarf around her bare shoulders. Come back here. She'll get over it. They always do. But Jihoon couldn't move. Couldn't look away from that call log. Yura didn't do desperate. Didn't do messy. In 3 years of marriage, a strategic alliance between the Park Syndicate and what remained of the Choi family after Jihoon's father had decimated them, she'd never once called him twice in a row, let alone 21 times. She simply existed in the background of his empire, managing his social calendar, hosting his associates, remembering which prosecutor preferred McAllen 25, and which judge's daughter was getting married in June. She spoke 4 languages fluently and could negotiate shipping routes in Mandarin, while simultaneously arranging his mother's medication refills. The 20-second call never came. His fingers moved on instinct, hitting her contact. The line didn't even ring. Straight to a dead tone that made his blood run cold. I need to go. What? Soo-yoon's face twisted with disbelief. You're leaving now because your treaty wife is having a tantrum. Jihoon was already grabbing his jacket, his keys. The 15-minute drive to the Hanamdong penthouse felt like 15 hours. He white-knuckled the steering wheel, telling himself this was nothing. Yura was probably asleep. She'd turned off her phone. She was making a point. Except Yura didn't make points. She made the empire run. The building was dark when he pulled through the security gate. Not unusual, it was past midnight, but something felt wrong. The air tasted wrong. The lobby attendant looked away too quickly. He pushed through the penthouse door using his fingerprint. Access denied. Jihoon's heart stopped. He tried again. Access denied. Override protocol. He barked at his driver, who'd followed him up. The driver swallowed hard. Sir. Madam changed the security system last month. Dual biometric authentication required. Your fingerprint and hers. Jihoon slammed his palm against the scanner. Yura. No answer. When building security finally forced the door open with the master override, the silence hit him first. The nursery was empty. Not just empty, erased. The twin bassinets were gone. The custom silk curtains with embroidered clouds. The matching rocking chair Yura had imported from Denmark. The wall where the twins' names had been hand-painted in gold, Hannah and Hee-jun, was now bare white, freshly painted. In the kitchen, on the black marble counter, sat one thing. His wedding ring. Not thrown. Not scattered among broken dishes. Placed. With the precision of a woman who did everything with intention. His phone vibrated. Unknown number. Jehoon, Yura said calmly, her voice clear and steady. You came home. Where are my children? With their mother. I will find you. You already lost me. Her tone was soft, almost gentle. Tonight, I gave you 21 chances. 21 opportunities to choose differently. Yura, listen to me. No. You listen for once. The gentleness sharpened to steel. I called 21 times. Do you know what I was doing during those calls? I was sitting in our bedroom, feeding our son, watching our daughter sleep, counting how many times you would ignore your family for a woman who doesn't even know your mother's name. Where are you? Somewhere you taught me to disappear. The line went dead. Jehoon stood in the hollow penthouse, staring at his wedding ring on the counter, and realized his empire had just been challenged by the quietest person in his life. By morning, he would discover she hadn't just taken the babies. She had taken everything. Chapter 2. The First Collapse. By sunrise, Jehoon's world cracked open like an egg. His Lieutenant Minyu burst into his office at the Park Group headquarters, face pale, tablet shaking in his hands. Boss, the Hong Kong account is frozen. Override it. We can't. Madam installed dual biometric authorization on all primary accounts 6 months ago. Remember? You approved it during the quarterly review. Said it was smart security protocol. Jehoon's jaw clenched. He'd been half asleep during that meeting, hungover, trusting Yura to handle the technical details like she always did. Another call came through. Judge Han, the one who dismissed 3 trafficking charges last year in exchange for quarterly consulting fees delivered in cash by Yura herself. Mr. Park, I'm afraid I can't continue our arrangement. The payment system seems to have discontinued. Before Jehoon could respond, another message. The customs officer who'd been clearing their shipping containers at Busan Port for 2 years. Contact unavailable. Do not call this number again. Jehoon's phone lit up like a slot machine. His accountant. The Singapore accounts require verbal passphrase authorization. Mrs. Park set them up. I don't have the codes. His weapons supplier. Mrs. Choi sends her regards and says the credit line is closed. The prosecutor who'd been burying evidence. I never received this month's retainer. Our understanding is void. Jehoon dialed Yura. She answered on the first ring. Good morning, Jehoon. What did you do? I stopped working for you. You're my wife. I was your shield. Her voice was pleasant, conversational, like she was discussing the weather. I was the woman who remembered Judge Han's granddaughter has a peanut allergy, who sent Prosecutor Kim's mother flowers every Parents' Day, who learned Mandarin to negotiate with your suppliers and Russian to communicate with your partners in Vladivostok. I was the infrastructure. And infrastructure, when removed, causes collapse. Yura, this is insane. Is it? You taught me that power isn't loud, Jehoon. Power is knowing which threads hold everything together. A pause. I was every thread, and I just cut them all at once. The line went dead. By noon, rival families were moving into his territory like sharks scenting blood. The Lee syndicate hit 2 of his card games in Gangnam. Walked in, took the cash, hospitalized 3 of his men. No resistance, because the police protection Yura had maintained for 2 years with meticulous monthly payments had evaporated overnight. By evening, Siyun appeared at his office, mascara running, designer bag clutched to her chest. Jehoon, I didn't know you were married like this. I thought she was just some arrangement. Some quiet girl who didn't matter. Jehoon looked at her, really looked at her, and felt nothing but contempt. Siyun was beautiful, yes. Exciting. But she couldn't name a single prosecutor on his payroll. Couldn't recite a single account number. Couldn't navigate the intricate web of favors and leverage that kept the Park family untouchable. Yura could recite them all from memory. In 4 languages. Get out, Jehoon said quietly. What? I said get out. We're done. Suyun's face twisted with shock, then fury. You're dumping me for her? She left you, Jehoon. She left. And she took everything that actually mattered. When Siyun fled, the penthouse felt like a tomb. That night, Jahoon's head of security delivered the information that made his blood turn to ice. Sir, we ran background on Madam. Deep background, the kind we should have run 3 years ago. And she's not just Choi family. She's Choi Yura, daughter of Choi Daeshik, the underboss your father killed in 2019 during the territorial war. Jahoon's world tilted. The peace treaty. The marriage arrangement. The quiet girl who'd walked down the aisle with downcast eyes and spoken her vows in a whisper. She hadn't been a prize. She'd been a weapon. Planted in his household. Learning his empire. Waiting. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. A photo appeared. Yura sat in golden sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows, holding both twins. Hannah's tiny fist wrapped around her finger. Hee-jun sleeping against her shoulder. She looked radiant. Powerful. Free. Below the photo, a message. You don't get to raise kings, Jahoon. You only know how to break them. Another text, seconds later. You taught me obsession. I learned strategy. Jahoon stared at the image until his vision blurred. The woman in that photo wasn't the Yura he knew. Wasn't the silent wife who'd faded into the background of his life. This Yura was awake. And she was coming for everything he'd built on the graves of her family. Chapter 3. The Invisible Architect. Minyu paced Jahoon's office like a caged animal, tablet clutched in white-knuckled hands. Boss, Busan Port is compromised. Our containers are being flagged for inspection. Captain Choi isn't answering calls. Find her. We can't. Minyu's voice cracked. We've had people searching for 3 days. No credit card activity. No phone records. No security footage. She's a ghost. Nobody just disappears. She did. And she did it using protocols you taught her. Minyu pulled up a file. Remember 2 years ago when you had her create the emergency extraction plan? The one for if the prosecution ever got too close? Safe houses, new identities, offshore accounts under shell corporations. Jahoon's stomach dropped. She's using our own escape routes. Living in properties we don't know about, funded by accounts we can't trace. Minyu's laugh was bitter. She didn't just leave. She executed a defection plan with military precision. Jahoon's phone buzzed. Another photo. Yura in a cafe, espresso in hand, casually reading a newspaper. The headline visible: Park Syndicate territory under siege. Allies abandon ship. The message below. You taught me to see 3 moves ahead. I'm currently on move 17. You're still trying to understand move 1. Jahoon drove to Busan himself after a private investigator's tip, paid with the last liquid cash he had access to. The hotel room was empty when he kicked in the door. On the bed, arranged with obvious intention, a hospital bracelet from when she'd given birth to the twins. His name listed as father, but scratched out with black permanent marker. A note beside it, in Yura's perfect handwriting. You taught me to disappear. You taught me to compartmentalize. You taught me that loyalty is transactional and love is leverage. I was an excellent student. Now let me teach you something. The person who controls information controls everything. And I've controlled your information for 3 years. Jahoon's hands shook as he read it again. Behind him, his phone exploded with messages. 3 more of his men had defected to the Lee family. 2 prosecutors had opened investigations. His primary weapons supplier had doubled prices overnight, because Mrs. Choi, the woman Yura had cultivated with birthday calls and Lunar New Year gifts, had withdrawn her favor. By the 7th day of Yura's absence, rival families had surrounded his territory like wolves circling a dying deer. The Lees controlled Gangnam. The Kims had taken Itaewon. The Minutes were making moves on his shipping operations. And Jahoon, the man who'd thought himself untouchable, was bleeding power like an open wound. His mother called, voice sharp with accusation. Fix this. That girl was the only thing holding this family together, and you threw her away for Mistress, who can't even speak proper Korean. Mother. Don't mother me. Your father built this empire through violence. Yura maintained it through intelligence. Violence makes enemies. Intelligence makes infrastructure. Without infrastructure, you're just a thug with a gun. She hung up. Jihoon stood in the empty hotel room, surrounded by the evidence of his wife's strategic dismantlement, and felt something he hadn't felt since childhood. Fear. Real, existential fear. Because if Yura was dismantling him this methodically, this surgically, then this wasn't escape. This was war. And she'd been planning the battlefield for 3 years, while he'd been too arrogant to notice. His phone rang. Unknown number. He answered without hesitation. Hello, Jihoon. Yura's voice was calm. Professional. I imagine you've realized by now that I wasn't just your wife. I was your entire nervous system. And I just severed every connection. What do you want? I want you to feel what I felt. Powerless. Replaceable. Invisible. I can change. You already did. You changed the moment you put your mistress's pleasure above your children's safety. Her voice didn't rise, but the steel in it could cut glass. Do you know what I was doing during those 21 calls? I was watching our daughter spike a fever. Watching our son struggle to breathe. I called you 21 times because Heejun needed to go to the hospital, and I needed you to help me decide if we should risk the public exposure. Jihoon's world stopped. I handled it alone. Like I've handled everything alone. I took him to our private doctor. He's fine now. But you didn't know that, did you? Because you were too busy fucking a woman who doesn't know your children's names. Yura. You have 72 hours, Jihoon. Then I make my next move. What move? You'll know when it happens. I learned from the best, remember? A pause. Oh, and Jihoon? Stop sending men to look for me. I'm not hiding. I'm just somewhere you don't have the intelligence to find. The line went dead. Jihoon stood alone in the Busan hotel room and finally understood what his wife had been for 3 years. Not a trophy. Not a peace offering. Not a silent servant. She'd been a sleeper agent. And she'd just activated. Chapter 4. The Ultimatum. The deadline arrived in the form of a single text message at exactly midnight, 72 hours after Yura's last call. Pier 7, Incheon Port. 6 a.m. Come alone or don't come at all. Jihoon knew it was probably a trap. Knew the smart play was to send men ahead, to set up counter-surveillance, to approach with overwhelming force. But he was past smart plays. He needed to see her face. Needed to understand how the woman who'd bowed to him every morning could destroy him so completely by nightfall. He drove himself. No security detail. No backup. Just a handgun in his waistband and the hollow feeling that he was walking toward an execution. Pier 7 was abandoned. Had been since the shipping company went bankrupt 2 years ago. Rusted containers stacked like a graveyard of commerce. The smell of salt and industrial decay thick in the pre-dawn darkness. Yura stood at the edge of the pier, silhouetted against the rising sun. She wore a simple black coat, her long hair loose in the wind. In her arms, a double stroller. Inside it, both twins, bundled in matching white blankets. Jihoon's breath caught. You came, Yura said softly, not turning around. I wasn't sure you would. You knew I would. His voice came out rougher than intended. You know everything, apparently. Not everything. But enough. She turned to face him. The woman who looked back wasn't the Yura he remembered. This woman's eyes were clear. Sharp. There was no deference in her posture, no soft submission. She stood like someone who'd spent 3 years pretending to be small, and had finally remembered she was built for war. Did you come to kill me, Jihoon? Is that your solution? His hand moved instinctively toward his gun. Go ahead. She didn't flinch. Pull the trigger. Prove to both of us that violence is all you have left. That I was right to walk away. That you never deserved the empire I built for you. You didn't build anything. You built a reputation through fear. I built an infrastructure through relationships. Her voice remained calm. You threatened people. I remembered their children's birthdays. You demanded loyalty. I earned trust. You took credit. I did the work. She took a step closer. The twins stirred in the stroller but didn't wake. Do you know how many hours I spent learning the Japanese tea ceremony, so I could properly host the Yakuza representatives? How many nights I stayed up memorizing Russian idioms so I could negotiate with your Vladivostok partners? How many dinners I sat through, silent and smiling, while you and your men talked about me like I was furniture? I never. You did. Constantly. No anger in her voice. Just fact. You told Minyu I was decorative but harmless. You told Judge Han I was pretty enough but not smart enough to be dangerous. You told your mother I was perfectly trained, quiet and obedient, exactly what a park wife should be. Jahoon's mouth went dry. He'd said all those things, never imagining she'd heard. I heard everything, Jahoon. Every conversation. Every dismissal. Every time you reduced me to nothing. She smiled, cold and beautiful, and I used every word as motivation. What do you want? I want you to understand what you lost. She gestured to the stroller. These children? They're brilliant. Hannah already tracks faces. Hee-jun already responds to music. They're going to grow up smart, strong, and kind. Everything you're not. They're my children. They're my children. You're just the biological contributor. Her voice hardened. And I will raise them somewhere far away from your world. Somewhere they'll never have to bow to men who mistake cruelty for strength. I won't let you. You don't have a choice. That's what I'm trying to make you understand. She pulled out her phone, showed him the screen. This is a video file. 47 minutes long. You, discussing the Hanwhat hit in 2021. Planning the assassination of Council Member Jung. Ordering the kidnapping of Prosecutor Min's daughter to leverage a case dismissal. Jahoon's blood turned to ice. Where did you get that? From your office. I recorded every significant conversation for 2 years. You never noticed because you never actually saw me. I was just the woman who brought you tea and organized your files. The perfect surveillance device hiding in plain sight. She swiped to another file. This is documentation of every offshore account, every shell corporation, every bribe you've paid in 3 years. Judge names. Prosecutor names. Police captains. Politicians. All of it cross-referenced with financial records I quietly copied from your encrypted servers. You wouldn't. I already did. I sent copies to 3 different prosecutors. All people you never bothered to corrupt because I told you they were too principled to approach. They weren't. They just weren't your contacts. They were mine. And they've been waiting for this evidence for 2 years. Jahoon felt the ground shift beneath him. Here's your choice, Yura said, her voice businesslike. You can confess to the Hanwhat assassination. Turn yourself in. Cooperate with prosecutors. You'll get 15 to 20 years. Maybe out in 12 with good behavior. Or you run. Right now. I've arranged transport. A boat leaves from this pier in 30 minutes. It'll take you to Taiwan. From there, you're on your own. New identity. New life. You disappear and never contact me, our children, or anyone in Korea ever again. That's not a choice. That's exile. No, Jahoon. Exile is a punishment. This is mercy. She looked at him with something that might have been pity. I'm giving you what you gave me, a chance to start over. The difference is, I'm not making you believe you're powerless while I control everything. I'm being honest about the power dynamic. If I run, what happens to the Park family? It collapses. Your mother will probably retain some influence through her connections. Minyu will likely flip to the Lee family. He's already been in preliminary talks. Your assets will be seized by the prosecution or absorbed by rivals. She paused. But you'll be alive. And that's more than you deserve. Behind them, the sound of engines. 3 black cars approaching the pier. Make your choice, Jahoon. The boat leaves in 28 minutes. The prosecution arrives in approximately 7. You can be on that boat or in handcuffs. But either way, you're done in Seoul. You planned all this. I planned everything. She smiled, and it was the saddest thing he'd ever seen. Did you know I started preparing the day after our wedding? The day you came home smelling like another woman and expected me to smile and bow and pretend I didn't notice. I loved you. No. You loved what I did for you. There's a difference. She turned back to the stroller, adjusting Hannah's blanket. The boat is on dock 12. The captain knows you're coming. He's been paid. Everything else is up to you. Yura. Goodbye, Jehoon. I hope whoever you become next is better than who you were with me. She started walking away, pushing the stroller. Didn't look back. Jehoon stood on the pier, watching her disappear into the early morning mist. Behind him, the sound of car doors slamming. Voices shouting orders. Ahead, the silhouette of a boat waiting in the distance. He had seconds to decide. Prison or exile. Punishment or escape. Either way, he'd already lost everything that mattered. Jehoon ran. Chapter 5. The Fall of a King. The news broke that afternoon. Park Jehoon flees country. Massive corruption scandal exposed. Prosecutors held a press conference. Showed evidence of bribes, assassinations, trafficking operations. Named names. Showed documents. Played audio recordings. Judge Han resigned and was arrested within hours. Prosecutor Minute was suspended pending investigation. Captain Choi at Busan Port turned himself in, agreeing to cooperate in exchange for leniency. The Park Syndicate collapsed like a house of cards. Minyu flipped to the Lee family, bringing half the remaining crew with him. Jehoon's mother held a press conference, tearfully denouncing her son and claiming ignorance of his criminal activities. She'd survive. Yura had made sure of that, leaving her just enough clean assets to retire comfortably. The empire Jehoon thought he'd built through strength and fear crumbled in 72 hours. And Yura? Yura vanished. No credit card records. No phone activity. No immigration records. The prosecutors tried to find her, wanted her testimony, wanted to offer protection, but she disappeared as completely as morning fog. Some said she'd gone to Singapore. Others swore they'd seen her in Vancouver. A few claimed she was in New Zealand, raising her children on a vineyard far from the world that had tried to break her. The truth was simpler and more elegant. She was everywhere and nowhere. Moving through the world the way she'd moved through Jehoon's empire. Invisible, strategic, always 3 moves ahead. She'd built a new infrastructure, one Jehoon had unknowingly funded through the offshore accounts she'd secretly established in her own name over 3 years. She'd created new identities, new relationships, new power structures. She'd become exactly what she'd always been. The invisible architect. The silent strategist. The woman who understood that real power wasn't about being loud, it was about controlling the foundation while everyone else fought over the roof. Epilogue. 21 calls. 3 years later, Jehoon sat in a small apartment in Taipei, watching rain streak down the window. He worked at a restaurant now. Washed dishes. Kept his head down. Lived under a fake name with fake papers Yura's boat captain had provided. Sometimes, late at night, he'd think about those 21 calls. 21 chances to choose differently. 21 opportunities to be a father, a husband, a partner. He'd ignored every single one. And in the silence that followed, his wife had transformed from a ghost into a god. His phone, a cheap prepaid model, buzzed. Unknown number. His heart stopped. He answered. Hello, Jehoon. Yura's voice, unchanged. Calm. Clear. Yura. Don't speak. Just listen. A pause. The twins ask about you sometimes. Hannah wants to know why she doesn't have a father like the other children at school. Hee-jun draws pictures of families with a missing person outlined in pencil. Jehoon's eyes burned. I tell them their father loved them but made choices that meant he couldn't stay. I don't tell them you chose a mistress over their hospital visit. I don't tell them you never learned to say their names correctly. I don't tell them the truth about what kind of man you were. Thank you. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for them. They deserve better than the truth. Her voice softened slightly. But I wanted you to know, they're brilliant. Hannah reads at a 5th grade level. Hee-jun plays piano. They're learning 3 languages and they're kind, genuinely kind in a way you never understood. Silence. I built something new, Jehoon. Something clean. The children will never know where their money came from. They'll grow up believing in justice and fairness and love. Everything your world wasn't. Can I ever see them? No. No hesitation. You made your choice when you ignored 21 calls. Now live with it. Yura, I'm sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't erase 3 years of invisible labor. Sorry doesn't give me back the nights I spent alone while you were with her. Sorry doesn't change the fact that you saw me as property, not a partner. A child's laugh in the background. High and bright. That's Hannah. We're at the park. She just learned to ride a bike without training wheels. Another pause. You'll never know what that looks like. You'll never know what Heejun's first piano recital sounded like. You'll never know who they become. Please. Goodbye, Jihoon. This is the last time we'll speak. I called to give you closure. To let you hear their voices one last time, even if they don't know you're listening. She put the phone near the children. He heard Hannah chattering about flowers. Heard Heejun humming a melody. Then Yura's voice, one last time. You taught me that power comes from silence. From knowing when to be invisible and when to strike. From understanding that the person who controls the foundation controls everything. I learned well. Too well for you. The line went dead. Jihoon sat in his tiny apartment, surrounded by the ruins of a life he destroyed with his own arrogance, and finally understood the lesson Yura had spent 3 years teaching him. Power without respect is just noise. And noise, no matter how loud, eventually fades to silence. Yura had mastered both, the silence and the strike. And Jihoon had never seen her coming until it was far, far too late. 21 missed calls. That's all it had taken to topple an empire. She'd tried to warn him. She'd reached out 21 times, giving him every opportunity to choose differently. He'd chosen wrong. And now he'd spend the rest of his life in exile, haunted by the ghost of a woman who'd been there all along, holding everything together with invisible threads he'd been too blind to see. Real power, Jihoon learned, wasn't about violence or fear. It was about knowing which threads mattered, and having the courage to cut them all at once. Yura had known. Yura had acted. And Yura had won. The end. If you believe loyalty and respect should go both ways in every relationship, hit subscribe. Only people like Jihoon won't understand why.